はい、おはようございます。私の名前はカレイです。そして、今日、私はあなたの先生になります。それだけ、日本文学について話しましょう。
はい、先生。
So, the first thing we're going to tackle about the Japanese literature and culture is Japanese marriage and family. So, here we're going to tackle about the things that and information that we should know about marriages in Japan. Japanese generally marry in their mid to late 20s, with the men usually marrying slightly later than women. So, women get married earlier than men in Japan. Weddings can be elaborate and expensive, and usually takes place in hotels. The couple may wear traditional clothing for the ceremony, European wedding outfits for photographies and socializing, and different clothing for evening party. Wedding guests bring gifts, often cash, and lives with gifts from the couple. So that's what makes marriage in Japan quite expensive, because like what I said earlier, different part of the occasion, for example, for the marriage itself, the ceremony itself, they're wearing kimono or yukata, while during the reception or the late evening party, they're wearing more casual clothing or European style of clothing, or more the modern type of wedding dress or clothing. And the guests, when they went to the party, they often give money. It's like giving their best wishes for the newlyweds. That's why they're giving them cash or gifts. That is why um, it is really important for them to give their blessing for the marriage to the newly married couple. Another thing about the marriage and family in Japan, family is bound together by a strong sense of reputation, obligation, and responsibility. A person's action is reflected on or his family. While the father is the head of the home, the mother is responsible for the household affairs. Many women now work outside the home. Although many aged parents still live with their married children's family is becoming less common. Um, since we're getting more into modern lifestyle now, unlike before that, women stays inside their house and just do the household chores or something that is really related to the household itself. Now, women becomes more um free, and they can go now with their work. So even they are the mother or their mother, they can now go and choose if they want to work or just stay inside their home. But on the other hand, there has been an increase of children who remains with their parents' home due to the high cost of housing, especially in the cities. Apartment rents cost lots, and aside from paying the bills and the food, living in cities costs a lot, especially if you have family. That's why they rather chose to stay with their parents than to live in their own. In cities, most family lives in high-rise apartment buildings or small homes. Larger homes are found less in the crowded areas. Larger homes or those bigger homes are less common in crowded areas. For example, Tokyo. In Tokyo, you can often see apartments rather than big houses. That is due to the high cost of apartment rents. And of course, aside from the apartment rents, you have to buy your own food, pay the bills like electric bills or water bills. That's why living in cities costs quite a lot. So that is all about marriages and families in Japan. That's it. 日本文学の知識を持っているクラスの人はいますか？
はい、先生。
お名前は？ああ、エモンさん。はい、どうぞ。
Ohayo gozaimasu, watashi wa Emmanuel desu. Watashi wa Nippon shukane tsuitse kyuyu suru tsurume desu. The Japanese diet consists largely of rice, vegetables, seafood, fruit, and small portions of meat. Meat and tea are part of almost every meal. The diet has been changing in recent decades, however, as the Japanese have begun to consume more red meat and milk. First, popular Japanese foods include miso or bean paste, soup, noodles or ramen udon and soba, curry and rice, sashimi or slices of raw fish served with soy sauce and wasabi, a pungent form of horseradish, tofu, and pork. Sushi is cold rice flavored with vinegar and served with fish, usually raw. Norimaki is similar dish with rice, fish, and or vegetables wrapped in dried seaweed. Second, in traditional meal, the Japanese typically eat from their bowl while holding it at the chest level instead of bending down to the table. Third, chopsticks or hashi are used to eat meals, but people generally use forks and knives when eating on non-Asian food. Fast food is popular among the young and the main meal is eaten in evening. When being entertained is polite, to follow the lead of one's host, the ability of a visitor to use chopsticks will create a favorable impression. But it is important not to point them at anyone or leave them across. An empty glass will usually refill and it is polite to fill others' glass before one's own.
Arigatou gozaimasu, Eman-san. Um, ほんの誰かはい。お名前は何ですか
Konnichiwa, I'm Aruno-san, and I'm here to talk about socializing in Japanese literature. A bow is the traditional greeting between Japanese. Someone wishing to show respect or humility bows lower than the other person. Japanese might shake hands with foreigners. So in Japanese, they usually bow their heads to show respect and the way how they greet. Next, the use of personal space is important, and people do not stand too close to each other when greeting or conversing. In this hierarchical society, titles are important in introductions. The family name is used with the suffix san for both men and women. For example, a Mr. Agashi in the United States would be called Agashi-san in Japan. The use of personal names is reserved for family and friends. In professional situations, the exchange of business cards is an important ritual. The cards should be studied carefully upon receipt and treated with respect. To play with or bend the card would be an insult. So in Japan, in professional situations, they exchange business card and it offered and accepted with both hands because it is a important ritual. And when you play or bend the card, that would be an insult for them. Visits are usually arranged in advance. Spontaneous visits between neighbors are uncommon in urban areas. Shoes are removed before stepping into a Japanese home. There is usually a small genkan between the door and living area where one stands to remove one's shoes. After being removed, shoes are placed together pointing towards the outdoors, or in a closet or on a shelf in the genkan. So, genkan is a small hallway in Japan. So, in Japan, before the visitors or the Japanese stepping into a Japanese home, shoes are removed and placed it to genkan. And for the last, coats are removed before stepping into the jankan. Slippers are often worn inside but are removed before entering rooms with straw mat floors. Straw mat floors is tatami in Japan. They called it tatami. That's all.
Arigatou, Ronna-san. はい。
Kerubin des. Baseball was introduced to Japan in 1872 and is Japan's most popular participatory and spectator sports. The first professional competition emerged in 1920s. The highest level baseball in Japan is Nippon Professional Baseball or NPB. Americans who come to play in Japan quickly realized that baseball's samurai style is different. Judo is a martial art that was born in Japan, and it is known as around the world as an Olympic sport. Judo was established in 1882 by combining jiu-jitsu, a form of wrestling, with mental discipline. The roots of jiu-jitsu lie in sumo, which has a long history. Sumo is mentioned in the Nihon Shoki Chronicle of Japan. Baseball is commonly called yakyu, combining the characters for field and ball. According to the Japanese National Team Organization, or JNTO, the atmosphere of Japanese baseball games is less relaxed than in the United States, with fans regularly singing and dancing to team song. Television. Television in Japan was introduced in 1939. However, experiments date back to 1920s when Kenjiro Takayanagi's pioneering experiment in electronic television. Television broadcasting was halted by World War II, after which regular television broadcasting began in 1950. After Japan developed the first HD TV systems in 1960s.
Arigatou gozaimasu, Kreben-san. Hai. Karan-san, Rosa-san. Hai, dozo.
Karen des. Holidays and celebration. Ganjitsu is the Japanese New Year, and it's observed on 1 January, Japan's New Year celebration called Oshugatsu. Last 3 days from 1 January through 3 January, it is time to exchange gifts and send cards. The streets are decorated and many homes featured traditional small pine trees on both sides of the door, which represent longevity and constancy. On 15 January, those who will have their 20th birthday on current year are honored during on coming of age day, Seijin Nohi. National Foundation Day, Kenko Kenen Nohi, on 11 February marks the founding of the nation in 660 BC. Vernal Equinox Day, Shunbun Nohi, celebrates the coming of spring each year around 21 March. Granary Day, Midori Nohi, on 29 April is a day to celebrate nature's beauty. Concession Memorial Day, Kenpo Kinebe, on May 3. 5 May celebrates the Children's Day, Kodomo Nohi, and this holiday is also called Boys' Days, but since 1948, girls have been included in the celebration. Arigatou gozaimasu, Sensei.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Hai.
Jerry des.
Jerry-san. Hai, dozo.
Diarist and poet, a witty learned lady of the court, whose pillow book, or Makura no Soshi, apart from its brilliant and original Japanese prose style, is the best modern-day source of information on Japanese court life in the Heian period, or 784 AD to 1185 AD. Seisho Nagon was the daughter of the poet Kiyohara Motosuke and was in the service of the Empress Sadako at the capital of Heian Kyo, or today is called Kyoto, from about 1991 AD to 1000 AD. Her pillow book, which covers the period of her life at court, consists of part of vividly recounted memoirs of her impressions and observations, and in part of categories such as annoying things or things which distract in moments of boredom, within which she lists and classifies the people, events, and objects around her. The work is notable for Seisho Nagon's sensitive descriptions of nature and everyday life, and for its mingling of appreciative sentiments and the detached, even caustic, value judgment typical of a sophisticated court lady. Seisho Nagon was apparently not a beauty, but her ready wit and intelligence secured her place at court. Seisho Nagon was often merciless in the display of her wit, and she showed little sympathy for those unfortunates whose ignorance or poverty rendered them ridiculous in her eyes. Her ability to catch allusions or to compose in an instant a verse exactly suited to each occasion is evident in the bedside jottings that are contained in her pillow book. Legend states that Sei Shonagon spent her old age in misery and loneliness. And lastly, I will mention a quote from Sei Shonagon herself. There is nothing in the whole world so painful as feeling that one is not liked. Arigatou gozaimasu, sensei.
ああ、はいはい。ありがとう、ジェリーさん。ああ、花だれ。はい。
先生、はじめまして。私の名前はビクトです。
ああ、ビクターさん。はい、どうぞどうぞ。
Matsuo Bashu, born as Matsuo Kinsaku, then Matsuo Choyamon Munefusa, was the most famous poet in the Edo period in Japan. During his lifetime, Bashu was recognized for his collaborative Haikai no Renga form. And today, he was known as the greatest master of haiku. Haiku is called late Hoku. He is also well known for his travel essays, beginning with Records of a Weather-Exposed Skeleton, written in 1684, after his journey west to Kyoto and Nara. Matsuo Bashu's poetry is internationally renowned, and in Japan, his poems are used in monuments or traditional sites. Although Bashu is famous in the West for his hokku, he himself believed that his best work, lay in landing and participating in ranku. Haiku is a Japanese poetic form that consists of 3 lines, 5 syllables on the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, and the third line has 5 syllables also. Haiku is developed from hokku, the opening 3 lines of the longer poem, on tanka. The characteristics of a traditional haiku are focuses on the brief seasonal moment, written in present tense, pause for the first or the second line, on the seasonal word kigo. It is evocative and has colorful images. I have here an example of haiku. The hail falls pitter-pat and fiercely rattles down upon the old pine tree. It is written by Matsuo Basho. I have another example of haiku. Starts, a vast sea of dreams, we voyage through existence, a life we dreamt of. It was originally written by me. And that's all for my reporting. Thank you.
ありがとうございます、ビクターさん。それが今日すべてです。ありがとうございます。